in different time zones is probably the earliest for me. So good evening to everybody else, and thanks for joining. My name is Faya, and I started a company called Leaving a Legacy Investments. And myself, Cindy, and Brianna started Capital Conversations to start some dialogue to help other people learn about real estate investment, just the industry as a whole. My company is called Leaving a Legacy Investments for that. Uh, the reason is in the title, leaving a legacy. I have no inheritance coming to me. I'm not a trust fund baby. I am not set up after retirement or anything like that to just live the lifestyle that I want to live without putting in some work. I think we all know the economy is a bit trash right now. And there are a lot of people who are kind of, as they're getting older and closer to retirement, trying to find ways to supplement their income, their pensions, or whatever they have set up for when they retire. Real estate was never a big interest for me. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We don't do a lot of buying real estate. We live in apartments and brownstones, and that's kind of it for the most part, right? We have some families that own these houses, they get passed down, but I didn't grow up learning about purchasing real estate, why it was important, how to do it, or anything like that until I moved to the Northern Virginia area. So I did purchase a condo, lived there for some years, needed a bigger house, kept that, became a landlord, and kind of followed that cycle until I got rid of those properties. During my master's program, I met a friend who tried to convince me to get into real estate. I did not want to be a landlord anymore. So I kind of shied away for it for a really long time until she introduced me to a mastermind group that helped me understand the difference in purchasing single family or single occupancy units versus multifamily and hotels. And once I got on with a huge network, learned a lot more about the industry, I was kind of sold. And from maybe February, March of this year until now, I went from having 0 doors because I sold my other properties to right now I'm in 100 doors. So real estate has been really good to me so far, although I'm still learning, still trying to grasp a lot of concepts and how to do a lot of things. Even during the learning process, I'm able to benefit from it. So I'm grateful for that and just want to kind of share my journey and help some other people. You know, I talk to a lot of friends and they want to supplement their income. They want to get ready for retirement. And it's worked for me. So I just want to help others do the same. I have Cindy on with me and I'll let her introduce herself and tell her story.
Thank you, Faya. I'm Cindy and I live in Colorado. I've been in real estate for about 30 years. I don't know if I should tell that sometimes or not because I feel like it dates me. And I've done a little bit of everything. About a year ago, it's probably like coming up on my 1 year anniversary, I also joined the mastermind that Faya was talking about to learn more about multifamily and hotels. And now I have 104 doors plus the properties that I already had my single family. So I've been able to acquire those as a GP, and I think we'll probably talk a little bit about that when we get a little farther along, but there's different kinds of owners, and you can be a GP or an LP or an operator, and there's different terminology there. And I myself too, I mean, I did not grow up learning about real estate. I fell into it after I came back from the military, and I was like, what am I going to do? I've learned how to shine my boots. I've learned how to um, play some cards, and I've learned to say bad words. And that's about it. And so I came back and computers were starting up and Microsoft. And I'm like, how do I do this? Microsoft Word? What is that? Because, I had been hanging out in the field with other soldiers, I guess you could say. So anyway, I came back and fell into it and I feel like I tell people I have an addiction. It's a 12, there's no 12-step program that's ever going to cure me. Everywhere I go, I look at real estate prices. I look to see what's for sale, and I'm always curious as to what the market is in any given area. So that's a little bit about me. And now what I've been doing lately is I found that I really enjoy talking to people and I really enjoy connecting people. So I have been capital raising for these projects. And that's how I got to know Faya and Todd and Brianna and Terry and Angela and Keisha. They're all people that I have worked with in this um, mastermind. And as Faya said, you don't need to know, you don't need to have all the information. When I started a year ago, I had no idea what a GP was or an LP or there's just so many terms, but I just jumped in and I just learned from other people. They always say you want to be in a room with people who are smarter than you. So my advice and to end my, little spiel here is that, even if you don't know, just ask the question. And if it's something you desire, jump in with all your might and just give it all you got, but never be afraid to ask those questions. So that's why we're here tonight too, is because we wanted to invite people who might not know anything about this. Feel free, ask any question. We're here, we're just normal people who are just learning about multifamily and hotels and how to create a legacy, like Faya said. So I will pass it over to Brianna, who's going to give us her story.
Hi guys, nice to see everyone. So yeah, as Faya and Cindy both mentioned, we've been meeting together and having capital conversations on a regular basis, including Todd. And Todd is our numbers guy, so I can't wait for you guys to hear from him next. But for me, I started a company called Soul Investing or Soul Investor. And for me, it was more about investing in myself is how this all kind of started. So I went to school, to college. I went the traditional route, went to a 9 to 5. I was there for about 8 years. I was extremely successful. I did B2B sales in a creative industry, and I worked with a lot of construction. But then it's just like, what I was in a moment where I'm like, is this it for me? Like, is this really it? My parents were like, go to college. That's the way out of poverty. I grew up in poverty, just a little background. We like faced homelessness, all types of fun things. But essentially, I was like successful in this position, but I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel happy. And I also was working in a toxic work environment. It was not a good environment at all. So then I just had to do some self-reflection, like what brought me to this point? Why am I here? What do I really want? Do I want to work a job for the rest of my life? So then I just started doing research, right? And then as all of you probably know, or if you don't know, like 90% of millionaires are made from real estate. Okay, so then from there, I'm like, okay, that's the route I want to go, right? We all need a place to live. Housing's important. It was so important, not, when you don't grow up with it and you're homeless sometimes, you know how important that it actually is and how much of a necessity it actually is. So I figured that's the route I want to go. So then we can look at different avenues, right? There's single family, there's multifamily. We've talked about different ways of gaining entry to real estate. The more research I did, I'm like, why would I focus on single family when multifamily, you're under one roof, you can 10x your income, you don't have 10 houses spread all around town, and you get to work with a great group of people. So that's when I, as Faya and Cindy mentioned, joined a mastermind. And that's where I've met some incredible people, and we're all at different entry points. And that's why we wanted to get on this webinar, so that way we can explain to you where we all are. I probably joined about a year ago, and I'm very slow at taking action. I think it's hard for me to be seen. And that took a lot of reflection too. Like, why is it hard for me to show up and be seen? Why is it hard for me to put myself out in front of people? And I kind of think that's a fear from when I was a child. Like, being homeless, you can't be seen. Like, if somebody knew you weren't having a place to live, like if a teacher knew, you would be taken away from your family. And I wasn't about to, so to me, it meant unsafety. So that's why, again, coming back to my company that I started, Soul Investor, it's about digging into yourself, what's important to you, and then multifamily real estate. So that's where I am. I'm building, I'm learning, I'm growing, and this is a big step for me just to show up. So I'll pass it over to Todd.
Thank you very much. So for those of you that don't know me, I know a lot of people in here. My name is Todd Snelling. I went to school to study accounting and finance, and then got out of that because I was tired to sit behind a desk job, but I've always been fascinated about numbers. So I enjoy talking to these people because I enjoy pitching my numbers to them. They give me feedback on what their investors want, and then we kind of mesh in the middle. Sometimes it's success, sometimes it's not. I was going to go over some things that you may see if you're raising capital and then your investors have some questions like, what does this mean? How much money can get back? I'm going to share my screen here quickly and kind of go over something you may see as you raise capital. I think 𝘧's got to let me be able to share here real quick, but I'm going to kind of go over what you would say to someone who, let's say this is a deal that I'm working on and somebody came to you and said, okay, I have $50,000. I want to put it in this deal, or I want to put it in Todd's deal. What does that look like for me? That's kind of what I go over. And let me see if I can share here.
You should be able to share now.
Okay. Okay. So I call this an investor sample. You can call this whatever you want. I've seen it be called an investor summary, investor section. I've seen it be called a lot of things. So what you're looking at is what would happen to someone's money if they put $50,000, that you raise $50,000 into their deal. And they may come to you and they may say, what does $50,000 do? What does that look like? So these are all deal specific. So these terms of the deal change, but some of the content, or some of the criteria I'm going to show you is the same, so you can speak intelligently about it. So this is a deal that I'm currently working on. It's an apartment building, and it shows what would happen to an investor if they put in $50,000 into the deal. And we say into the deal, this is their investment into the deal, and this is just their return on their money. We're not going to talk about depreciation, which is another benefit that I'm sure one of the ladies can talk about. This is just an example of what would happen if you invested $50,000 in the deal and you wanted to explain to someone what would happen over the life of the deal. First of all, you'll see that at the top, I have 3 years here. We project that we're going to sell this building in 3 years. So that's when we calculate. This is the life of the investment calculation. So at the top, a lot of these are worked out the same way, but at the top, you'll see $50,000. And you'll see where somebody has invested $50,000 in this deal. And based on the projected cash flow that I calculated, based on my operations and based on my underwriting, they're going to get back that first year $4,531, which is 9% return on their investment. So if somebody asks you and say, okay, I want to invest $50,000, what does that first year return like? And she can say, Todd is projecting a 9% return that first year. So you get this money back, it goes in your checking account, and then your capital still in deal is $50,000. Remember that 4531 number is pure profit in your pocket. It's cash on cash. It's money coming back into your checking account or however you want it.
And Todd, can I add one thing too?
Yes.
Just for informational purposes, because we're trying to educate folks on this stuff, is that is like quarterly returns that you automatically get. So when he says you get back 4531 for the year, it's in quarterly returns that just automatically go into your bank account. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's correct. Most deals, most portals operate, although it doesn't have to be quarterly. I know some deals that pay a Christmas bonus at Christmas time because the cash flow's there. But most of the deals are set up quarterly to operate, and that's when you can expect it. The operators of your deal can kind of help you out when to expect it. You should be getting emails to say, hey, money's coming soon. So the second year of the deal, you bring in $6,446 or 12% of your return, or 12.8% return. You still have your original $50,000 in it. Okay, so this is what you make. So in year three is a big deal. So in this particular deal, my plan is to sell this building in year 3. at the end of year 3. So in year 3, you get back, you make 5707, which is an 11% return on money. Okay, so you have that money back in the account. Then I'm going to sell this building at a profit. I'm going to return you another $16,119. That's for your portion of the sale of the building. And then I'm going to give you your $50,000 back. You've let me borrow this $50,000. You've invested it in my company. I am now going to return that. So you're saying to yourself, okay, so what does that look like? Well, your average cash on cash return is 11.12%. What's cash on cash returns? That means the cash you put in, this is the return you get back. I see a lot of people try to overcomplicate this number. This is just basically your return, which is essentially the average of these 3 numbers here. So people say, where does this number come from? It's just an average of the 3 years. 1 year was 9, 1 year was 12, 1 year's 11. And then your annualized return takes into effect the sale of the building. So over 3 years, if we factor in the sale of the building in year 3, you made 21.87% over 3 years. You got your money back.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good return, right? So then a lot of times you hear a number called equity multiple. Equity multiple is just this. And I'll give you a little tip. Anytime you see someone's underwriting, always look around the boxes and you'll see notes to the side, just like here. That's just a little tip you'll see. So if you see somebody's underwriting, that's just kind of their internal thoughts in their head, things they'll work on or things they may be questioning. I do it all the time. So if you ever get to see mine, look outside and you'll be able to steal some ideas from my head that I was thinking about. And then this equity multiple is just a ratio, or it's just a calculation of the amount of money you made plus what you put in. So this means you get 1.66 times your money back, but that includes the original $50,000. So I think you heard the lady say, hey, we're all part of this mastermind. And most of the people we talked to in a mastermind look at, oh man, we like an equity multiple of 2.0. That's what we'd like to see. Sure. Typically, equity multiple goes up over the life of the hold. I have another deal in which it's a 7-year hold. This equity multiple, if you get your money back quicker, this equity multiple may shrink. So essentially what you're seeing is you're taking your money, you're investing it, you're getting 21%, almost 22% back over the 3 years, and you get your money back. There's a concept called velocity of money. You can take that money and run after 3 years, or you can say, man, I like investing with Todd. I'll give Todd another shot at this next deal or something like that. You have that freedom on a short-term equity multiple, but a lot of people don't realize that equity multiple may drop below 2 because of the term of the deal shortens. So that's basically an investor summary. I can answer anybody's questions and go from there, but they're a lot different, but those are the same concepts. That's how you would get your money back. And it's not just on operations. We plan a lot of these returns on operations. It may be bonuses. Like I said, we've had a great year. We're going to return a little bit more money. But does anybody have any questions about that?
So question, you're in the process of acquiring this property, right?
Right.
And has it closed already?
It has not closed.
Okay.
It has not closed. This is a property that I've been working on for some time. We've looked at different numbers. But again, I rely on people like the ladies, the capital raisers, to say, what do your investors want? Some investors don't want to hold for, some people just want to put their money away for 7 years. It's safe. I get good returns. Some people want to test the waters and may want to do a 3-year investment, get 22%, take your money after 3 years, go invest it in something else, go put it in a different building, something like that. Some people want a lot of depreciation. You may find a deal that's got a heavy capital expenses, heavy repair bill, that's likely to depreciate. Some people want that. It's just that I kind of rely on capital raisers to tell me what your investors are looking for.
So question. So the typical sellers normally be 5 years. So why would this particular property you're doing a 3-year sale? Is it just the nature of the area? What? Because normally we learned that it's 5 years typical.
So here's my best answer to that question. I will do whatever makes the most money. So
Got it.
I have a deal that was 7 years. I may keep it for 10 if I knew it's extremely profitable.
Mm-hmm.
I have a deal that I looked at that was 7 years. That same deal, I think maybe I can get out of it in 4. If being in the deal, a planned 7 year deal, is more profitable for my investors at 4, I will do that.
Okay,
In
got
the
it.
portal, I'll
Okay.
explain it. Hey, this is a good opportunity. This may shorten your investment, but I think this is a better return in the end. If we look at time and money, that's a huge part of this.
I'm a value money. Got it.
That's really it. Unless you guys have any more questions, or you can always reach out to me. Any more questions? Okay.
So for everyone online that is pretty new to the industry, to the idea of investing in real estate, we know that these numbers and these charts and the idea of it can be a little bit overwhelming. Todd is really, really good at numbers. He helps a lot of us do underwriting for properties. He teaches us how to underwrite and things like that. So we just wanted to give him a chance to give you guys an idea of what that process looks like. For a lot of us, especially myself, in the very beginning, my mindset was simply, how much do I need to be able to invest? How much will I get back and when? Which is what he went over just now in a little more detail. So again, the whole idea of this webinar is for it to be conversational. So we definitely do want to hear your questions in the chat, or unmute and ask the questions, so you can get the information that you're looking for. Some people are interested already in investing and just looking for opportunities. Most of us, actually all 3 of us, Brianna, Cindy, and myself, we do capital raising for the deals. So we do help find the investors for properties that people like Todd find, to get the money that we need to be able to purchase those properties and help other people create another stream of income. It just depends, like Todd said, on what they're trying to do with their money. So any questions you have, feel free to let us know. Drop them in the chat. We'll always have additional opportunities for properties. I know a few of the properties that I started with. Angie and her sister. And sometimes properties are as low as, like, let's say you need 25,000 to invest in a property. I've seen groups of friends get together, 5 people, $5,000, go in together, invest in a property so that they can make more money, and keep continuing to invest in additional properties to get their income up and to just be a part of more deals. So it's a lot of opportunity here if you're interested, which is why we're doing this, because without our network, which is a lot of people that's on this call, and the opportunity to learn and understand how to move money around and make it happen, we wouldn't be in a position that we're in. So again, we just want to help everybody else get to where we are and even further. So just let us know.
I have questions. I have so many questions.
Come on with the questions.
Yeah. So as someone with no money, what do we do? If this is something intriguing, how do we go from this to $100? How do we go from this to 10 to whatever? How does this work?
I will give you one way, and I'm sure there are plenty of people on this call that can give you other ways. The very first one that I did, I am a federal government employee, and I took money out of my TSP and I used that to invest in my first property. And I went from there. You use the money that you make to invest in other properties. If you have a home already, if you have equity in your home, depending on your situation, you can take equity out. I see Terry said credit in the comments. There's quite a few ways to do it. I know Terry also introduced me to a self-directed IRA, which, if you have an LLC, somebody correct me if I misspeak on this because I'm not an expert. If you have an LLC already set up, you can move money from, let's say, your TSP, which is your government 401k, move it into the self-directed IRA, because then you have control over that money and you can use that money to invest in a property and kind of start there. So that was my way. I'm not sure if anybody else has additional input on how to just how to
Well,
start.
when you create the self-directed IRA, it's a separate LLC. You don't really combine that with other funds. So, Cindy, do you have IRA?
I have a holding company. I have a LLC. I have a regular retirement account. Yeah.
Right.
I
So
do
that
not have
retirement
self-directed.
account, I don't know if you've been on any of the other Zooms or webinars in our other group, but we've had a gentleman on there and also here we've had him with Angela and Jackie. We had him on talking about self-directed IRAs, how you can convert that, and then you can use that to invest. So and also when you bring people who might be larger investors, sometimes you might be able to get a position in the property, just depending on what the operator is offering. Like Todd would be considered the operator. And then if I raise capital, I become a GP. And then let's say you invested, you would be an LP. So a GP is a general partner, and LP is a limited partner. Does that make sense?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. And one of the things I wanted to point out too is, like, for example, I'm planning on selling a couple of my single families. 𝘧ia talked about this, because, you know, it's that old adage, tenants, toilets, and trash. And I don't know, did you see my little video online
Yes.
with my tenant?
That
Yes.
and your other one of making your wall different that looks so lovely, and then you had to change it. Yeah. And
But
then
look
the
how
other one.
much work I have done on that property this
Yes.
year.
Yeah.
Right. And I took it off the market for 45 days. I tried to sell it. It didn't sell because it was right before the election. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping in the spring that I'm going to sell it. But see, Cindy has heard me go on and on about this property. And I want to tell you the numbers on that and why I'm looking at selling it and putting it into multifamily. I bought that property for $319,000. And when I bought that property, I had to put 25% down. Well, 25% down is $79,750. And every month I make $315. But I have my tenant calling me. I don't know how to change batteries.
Yeah, your latest
Okay.
struggle, poor thing.
This is a guy who builds rockets for
Yeah,
a living,
yeah.
and he couldn't change the batteries. So anyway, long story is, if I look at Todd's numbers, for example, and invest $50,000, which is $29,000 less than I invested in my condo, I'm making $377 in some change per month, even though it's quarterly. I kind of break it down to months. That's just kind of how my mind thinks. And I haven't had any tenants call me. I haven't had to pick up anybody's trash. I haven't had to do anything. So that's kind of the benefit of multifamily. And I have a vacant unit for 45 days because it was on the market. And guess what? That took some of my reserves. But when you have multifamily, you got one vacant unit, all the other tenants are basically paying for that. And you also have reserves that you apply. So that's part of what operators include in their budgeting is they look at what it's going to cost to maintain the building. They look at what it's going to cost if we have vacancies or whatever it is. Todd, can you add to that? What else do you put into your reserves?
So when on a deal like the deal that I show you, when I sit down and close a multifamily deal, I plan for first year's insurance. So like on this deal here, it's probably $30,000. That's held back. I also plan for an operating reserve, which is $21,000. So basically I do 500 times 43. This is 43 units. That's $23,000. Some banks, depending on how the debt works, will make me have extra reserves to hold back. So I may put $75,000 just back for required reserves. So the bank may, and that's just money I can't touch. That's thanks to banks who.
Cindy,
So
does that
does
help answer some questions?
so
It
so
does, but I'm still, so, the whole idea that, okay, it's going to be sold and you'll make your money. But like you ladies, you say you have 100 doors and 104 doors. So there's not selling going on at this moment. Or is that a short range plan to sell how does this, how have you acquired all of those without doing all the selling and whatnot?
Maya, do you want to add something or?
Because we
I
have
can,
Todd
okay. Okay.
and other Todds. So we're not buying and selling consistently, but like the project that Todd presented, if he purchases that, that's the buying. If I invest money into it, I'm really just kind of setting and forgetting it, right? We've gone over the deal, we see the numbers, so we know what to expect as far as returns. And that's where the buying happens. The selling, like Todd said, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever makes the most money, depending on the particular property. That's when the selling portion happens, right? And you get your returns. And again, there are other projects going on and someone else is buying, you invest into that. So that's kind of the buying, selling portion. For me, the best part, like I said, is set it and forget it. I put my money in a project. The money makes money for me. I really don't have to do anything. We take more time in understanding the deal because we do raise capital and we need to explain to other people who want to invest exactly what's going on. But there are a lot of people who literally just kind of understand the highlights, throw their money in a deal based on the amount, if they want to be an LP or a GP or whatever the situation is, and just wait for their returns to roll in. So you don't have to do the work like Cindy said. You don't have to be as heavily involved in the purchase and the refinance and now the selling and things like that.
So then,
And then
sorry.
Go ahead, Cindy.
Okay, so then let's say, okay, so on this particular one is 50,000. What if somebody says, well, I have 20? Then it's just a different percentage of equity, a different, like maybe somebody has 100,000 and then so they'll get a different percentage versus the 50 versus the 20. I mean, do you have minimum buy-in? What?
Generally, there is a minimum buy-in. Most of the time, it's either $25,000 or $50,000. The percentages doesn't change. It's just the amount of money you put in that changes. So, for example, everything is based, back up here a little bit. When you go into a deal, you're not just investing money in a random deal. You're also, one of the next questions you need to ask is, what is the plan here? So the plan can either be raise rents, lower expenses. We're going to do a massive improvement. We're going to buy the block. There's some sort of operational plan that needs to take place. And then obviously that takes time. On most deals that I look at and I want to raise rents, I know that day one, I can't raise rents because the guy in apartment 104 may be under a lease for the next year. So my first operational plan may be anywhere from 18 to 24 months. You'd be rarely see that you get into a deal unless you get into it dirt cheap, less than 2 years, right? Because it takes time to operate. It takes time to fill vacancies. It takes time to lower expenses to scale in a certain time frame. So
Todd, would you pull up that do you have $100,000 spreadsheet that you can pull up and just show the difference there?
yes.
So this
Okay.
is the 50. Oh yeah, you can just change it there.
Yeah,
See?
I'm just going to change this number and it'll populate.
Yep.
Again, your rate of return stays the same based on cash flow of operations. You're just going to get more money back because you put more money in.
Sure.
It's still 9%. Everything else stays the same.
So when you say that you have 100 doors and 104 doors, you have a percentage of them.
Right.
Absolutely.
For the amount
Yes.
of money that
Correct.
we have invested or our investors have invested. And I am on a property in Hattiesburg, Mississippi that has 60 doors. And then I am on a property in Hickory, North Carolina with Angela and her sister and a few other people in the mastermind. And that is that 42 or 44 doors, Angela?
48 doors.
Oh, look at that, 48.
48 doors. Yeah.
40 something. So, it's kind of that old saying, there's no I in team, and being in multifamily is teamwork, and Todd is good at numbers. Faya, myself, Brianna, and some other folks are really good at capital raising. Other people are good at managing. So there's always a team. You're not going to do this yourself. And because there's all these different people involved, yes, you own a portion, but you are still legally an owner.
Sure.
So
now what I understand the whole team thing. So what is and I know you spread it over all the doors and all this. So why wouldn't you go out and get, oh, here's an 8-plex or whatever, and just get an 8? It's not spread out as much, but it's still the whole idea of under one roof, foundation, all of that, and it's spread out.
Why wouldn't we, or why wouldn't you get an 8?
Anyone.
Okay. Well, you can, but it's not this is a syndication.
Mm-hmm.
So a syndication is a group of people who take their money and put it together to purchase.
For a particular property.
Right.
Yeah.
And this one particularly is in North Carolina. And I think the purchase price is $3 million. Now, Cindy, in Colorado, what are you going to get for $3 million?
Yeah,
you're probably going to get a 16 unit if you're lucky. I looked at a $1 million 5-unit in a bad neighborhood last week. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over here to North Carolina, and I'm going to say, hey, for $3 million, we can get, is this one 42 units? Why do I have 42 stuck in my brain, Todd? Is this 42?
43.
40.
I was going to say so close, Cindy, so close.
I'm so close. So, it's like, so you can work together. Also, Todd's group, guess what? They are vertically integrated. So they're going to manage the project. They're going to manage the management, the daily comings and goings, and the rent rolls and all of that. They're going to keep track of the numbers every month and every day. And they're also going to make sure the maintenance is done. So that's why I prefer to go buy property like this, because if I buy an 8-plex, yeah, I could probably have property management. Am I vertically integrated? Probably not, because when you're vertically integrated, you can keep your costs down. But on an 8-plex, if you're just going to have a management company do it, you know how much they charge to go over there and just look at the problem? I don't know. It's probably $150 just to go over and look at it. I know so many people have had properties like that, and they've had management companies, and they get these crazy bills just to go over and change a faucet. It's $500.
Right.
Right. So something like this, it's vertically integrated. Does that help?
Yes. Because I follow a bunch of people, and there's this 25-year-old, and he is on his 20th multifamily that he's doing on his own.
Wow. All right. Where are they located, and how many units are they?
The last one was 23 units, and I don't know. He had it on I follow him on Facebook, and I can't remember where it was. But yeah, crazy.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the big differences, you said he's 23. Now, I'm not sure on my face, but I think it has to do with something with age, like Faya said earlier about planning for your retirement. I know me personally, I'm 53. We don't have time to get 20 and 30 unit single family homes. So for some of us, it's about what's smarter for us at the age we're at, because we did not know about real estate earlier, which everyone explained that in their personal stories. And so where we are, you have to, when you get that wake up call, you have to just realize what's the quickest way to go. And multifamily is the best way to go versus trying to manage smaller, single family homes all over the country, even in your local area. It becomes a lot, because some of us still work W-2s as well. So that's why multifamily becomes very appealing. It has a lot to do with your current age, and so that's a huge difference. That was a big difference for me and my sister while we got started, based upon our age and how quick we could acquire our units, like you said. we have, like I say, we've all invested together. We all work together. We've capital raised together. And so we just all have a common goal. We're all like-minded people, which makes a huge difference in anything that you're doing.
Sure.
Yeah. And to Angela's point, Cindy, we said, like, how do I get in, right? Like, how do I get started? That was like your original question. Everybody's story is different. As Angela pointed out, as we've all been saying, everybody's different. So you have to look at your situation and say, how can I? Not like, okay, I don't have any money. I don't have this. I don't have that. No, switch it.
Exactly.
What can you do? Can you network with people? Can you join more of these calls? Do you own a home? Can you take out a HELOC? Do you have a 401k with the 9 to 5? Can you tap into your 401k? Can you take out a loan against that? I mean, there's a million ways to get started. You just have to shift your mind from like, I can't do this to how can I do this? And just because somebody else has so many doors, who cares? Just focus on yourself and what you're doing, and that's all that matters. So there's a million different ways. So I'd say research, if you know people, network with people, that's super important. Get in the room with like-minded people. If you need to join a group or a mentorship, join that. The internet is at our fingertips, at our disposal. I mean, there's like no reason why we can't do what we want to do.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. Like, the journeys are so different, the starting points are so different, the end goals are so different, but there is still room for everyone to get in. Like at 23, I had a lot more energy than I do at 23 times 2 plus some additional. So, also I, have a W-2, a 9 to 5, well, more hours than that, but still, right? So I don't have the time and energy to dedicate in that same way. So I'm able to leverage my network and get in on projects that we have people on our teams that are able to do some of the other pieces, right? And we all collectively come together. And as a whole unit, we're able to do what we need to do for a project versus having to do every single thing by yourself. So leveraging your network is everything. And in addition to leveraging your network for acquiring properties and having property management and a numbers guy and a capital raiser, just the knowledge, understanding, and continuing to learn throughout the entire journey, what terms mean, what different kind of projects are, different ways to look at projects and to increase the value in properties. Like, it's a consistent journey. So for me, the network is everything.
And then also focusing on the value that you can bring. Like, what can you bring to a team? Like, sometimes you just have to sit down and think, like, what skills do I have to offer to help? And that's just beneficial right there. You'll start being like, okay, how can I be a resource for other people? What can I do to help this deal? What can I do to help this person, this team? If you like just look at it from that perspective, I think a lot of things will change too.
Which is how this whole thing started, because we constantly get questions from friends, family, coworkers, just about the industry and what we're doing and how we're doing it. So we're like, we're having these conversations. We can make them larger conversations and pull in some experts and people who have more knowledge than us to help them understand the way a lot of them help us understand. So this forum, right, right now it'll be monthly. I'm sure that it'll increase in the future, but the entire point again is to help us all educate each other, to help us all network and get in on these projects and be able to add an additional stream of income, right? Get ready for whatever your goals are, retirement, I don't know, you just want money right now, whatever the case may be. So we definitely want everybody to be a part of the conversations, right? Ask the questions. The question could be, what does a term mean, right? Like, whatever it is, ask the questions, be a part of the conversation, because that's how you're going to learn. It's also how you're going to network and meet other people that you can possibly team up with to get in on some of these projects, especially if you're in the beginning phases and you don't feel like you're ready, or you have the resources you need. That's how you learn where to pull these resources from. So, the biggest part is being here, right? And being a part of the conversation and starting a network.
So for the syndication, it is based on a property, but if you were to do like a fund of fund, then that is just pooling money and waiting for the property to show up. But you guys get the property first.
Yes.
And then
so a few of us are working on funds, on an actual fund, but most of what we do is we have a property, we have a project, we've run the numbers, the underwriting is done, we know what the plan looks like for the property, what the returns look like, and then we're raising capital for that particular project.
And so then somebody says, okay, this is great. And then a year down the road, they're like, no, gotta peace out. How does that affect things?
So Todd,
it doesn't happen that way. Let me explain. When you sign up, you are an investor under either a SEC law called 506C or 506B. You've created an investment. So if I came to you and I said, Cindy, you're going to give me $50,000, you're not going to give it to me. You're going to give it to a escrow company and a title company. We will use your money to help us close the deal. You still have a legal right to that building, right? I can't default on that. Otherwise, it's criminal activity, right? I mean, the worst thing I could say is that, the building, hey, the building was hit by a tornado. We'll use insurance. We have insurance on the building. We'll rebuild it, and this is what's going to happen. When you become an investor in the property, you learn about the property through your portal. Like I tell my investors, you're going to get constant communication. Even if it says everything's going great, building's still here, we're doing exactly what we want, have a great day. You're going to know what's going on. You're going to feel like these are your doors. Does that answer your question?
Yes. But my scenario was, this person is excited to invest. They put in 50, as you say, but you're looking at, okay, we're looking at 357 long as far as that goes. But after the year, they go, hey, don't want to be here anymore. Want to peace out. How does that work for you?
Oh, you're talking about the investor saying, I want to peace out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can happen. Certain deals are more struggle to get out of it than others. It's based on the cash flow. You know what I mean? I may have that 50, let's just say I've got $50,000 in the bank, and that $50,000 is set aside for, I don't know, 10 air conditioners. And you need to get out of the deal. You would probably say, hey, I need to get these air conditioners done first. It's based on the operation of the deal. So read your paperwork closely.
Okay.
Your money's still in there. You still have a legal right, but it's kind of like compare it to a CD at a bank, right? If you say I got a 12-month CD at a bank and I want it out of 6 months, there's a penalty to be paid on a CD. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why we try to be clear. Very rarely will you see, I shouldn't say very rarely, a deal go longer. You may typically see it go shorter. And like I said, it'll go shorter because I think right now is the biggest profitability for my investors. It would work. I would send out an email and say, hey, I think now's the time to sell based on this price that I'm going to get. This is your cut. I know I said 5 years, but we're going to cut it to 4.
Gotcha.
As the operator, I feel it's the best deal for my investors.
So Todd, 2 questions I have from the chat. One is potential for loss in these type of deals. Another question is clarifying the return on investment schedule. You mentioned a yearly return and Cindy mentioned the quarterly returns. So they're just unclear on how that works.
Yeah, so the form that I showed is a yearly return based on our projected operations, our projected income, which includes vacancy and loss to lease, our projected expenses, gives us a net operating number on how we operate. It includes debt service. It's this number. This is always a yearly number. It's 9% a year. Most of the time, like Cindy said, this 9% or $9,000 comes out quarterly. So basically 963 divided by 4 is you get a check for $2,265.75 transferred to your bank account. Does that answer that question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, sure.
And there was another question there with him. And I'm not even sure of the question. Using the $50,000 reinvestment example, year one will either equal 4531 or 18,124. Year one on the 50,000 is 4531. Is that correct, Todd? And then the 18,000 is at sale is what you would get. I believe that's right if I'm remembering the spreadsheet at
Yes, yeah. The
50,000.
one is at sale. So
Yeah.
trying to see his numbers here. Let me go back and put $50,000 in because I think that's what he may be referring to.
I think so.
Okay, let me share the screen. I'll share the screen again.
No, so Todd, and thank you, Fire, for inviting me to this. You just explained it perfectly
Okay.
with the
Okay.
using the 100K example. So this 4531 is spread out quarterly over the year.
Yes.
But you're not getting 4531 each quarter. It's just broken
No.
out into 4. Yeah, I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you got it. Okay, cool.
Any more questions, folks? I don't see any more.
I do have an additional question. So,
Jorge.
hey, so at what point do you cap your investors per investment? So let's say, for example, you are purchasing a 100-unit property, and you have 100 people who want to invest $50,000. At what point do you cap that? Or do you just continue to take the investments and roll them into new properties?
No, the property that you invest in is the property that you know about. So a fund operates a little bit that way, but let's take your example. I forget the number you used, but let's say that you need to raise $1 million. And you came to me and said, I want to raise, I'll give you $1 million. I've got $1 million for you. Then you become the only limited partner and you get the returns showed here.
I think he's asking if you have 100 people, can you have 100 investors? It is sort of capped. It's capped. If there's different SEC regulations, there's a 506C and a 506B. And so there's certain numbers in there where it's capped for accredited and non-accredited investors. I might need some help here from the audience because there's a couple people in here who know a little bit more than me, but I think it's 32 non-accredited investors when it's a 506B. A 506B is when you can combine accredited and non-accredited investors. So then you can take up to, I believe, 32 non-accredited investors, and then the rest can be accredited. So let's say you have 32 non-accredited investors, but they make it to a $900,000 raise, and you only have $100,000 left for accredited investors. You could have 100,000, or you could have 250s, or you could have 425s. Does that make sense? Did I explain that? Yes.
I misunderstood the question. It's 35 non-accredited investors.
Oh, 35. See, I have trouble with my numbers. That's why Todd does the numbers.
And so now what is an accredited versus a non-accredited now that you've opened up that can of worms?
Yeah, absolutely. An accredited investor is someone who makes over $200,000 as a married couple, I'm sorry,
No.
200,000 as a single person and 300 as a
300
married
yeah.
couple. And then they have $1 million in assets, not including their primary residence. A non-accredited investor is basically everybody else. So I'm still a non-accredited investor myself. Faya, I think, is.
Definitely.
Brianna is. We're still just plugging away. I'm close. Not yet. Maybe if I, sell my property, invest in here, definitely.
So did we
So
cover the potential for loss? I know that was a question as well. Like when you invest in these properties, what is the potential for loss on the investment?
let me take that. So it could happen. It absolutely could happen. I know people that closed on a property in North Carolina, and 2 weeks later, the hurricane came through and took the roof off. Right? You come to your, I mean, you're honest about it. You go to your investors and say, we need to repair the roof. We got to put a new roof on. This stuff could happen. Generally, your money is safe. I'm going to say relatively safe, but it's based on your operator. It's based on the guy that you trust. There is a tremendous benefit for me as an operator to maximize your value, to maximize 𝘧's value, in that I want 𝘧 a part of my next deal. I want 𝘧 to tell me about her people, about me as well, on how much money I made 𝘧. There is always a potential to loss, just like in the stock market or anything else. I know we've not talked about depreciation, but revenue is not the only thing that you would get. You would get a fraction of depreciation taken on the building. You know, some people will buy a building just for the depreciation, that they make so much other money, they need the depreciation. So they'll park their money in a project that's heavily capitalized that they have to do a ton of work on. Most of that time, that deal gets an accelerated depreciation study done, and then they take all that depreciation, and that's what they need. It's up to the invisible investor, but the ability for loss is always there.
It's so this market is a lot less volatile than the stock market. And I think also because most of the work is done on the front end, as far as the underwriting and figuring out what the deal looks like and what the plan is, it helps to make the deals a little bit more secure. Well, a lot more secure. But like Todd said, it's always possible for that to be the case.
Yeah, and 𝘧, if you can, I can explain about due diligence and how we do due diligence on our deals.
That was going to be my question, is like, what is do you have a credibility package, and what is the due diligence?
Okay, so on this particular deal here, it was offered to me. You can get a deal off market, on market, whatever else. All deals start the same way, with the theory on how you would operate it based on what it needs. I can tell you, this year in 2024, I can't even believe to tell you how many deals I've looked at that just don't make sense. The rents are too high, the expenses are too high, it's in a bad area, the building's falling down, there's not enough money to be made, blah, blah, blah. So when you get a deal, so to give you an example, we looked at the profit and loss this week on this particular deal. We went to every line item and confirmed what somebody else told me I could make. Okay, so they say the insurance, which is a big deal now in multifamily, is going to be $25,000. I call my insurance agent. This is what I need. This is the best insurance I can buy. No, it's not 25. It's going to be 30. Line by line due diligence. If we're happy with that, we submit what's called an LOI to the owner. An LOI is non-binding, but say, we're interested in this deal at this price. Do you agree? They say, yes, we agree. Okay, so then I want certain documents from the previous owner. On this particular deal, I wanted profit and loss statements. I want printing work orders. I want vacancy reports. I want to see who's behind on their rent. I then traveled to North Carolina with 3 other people, in which I videotaped every single 43 units. And I looked at all the walls and see what all they needed. Things like hot water heaters, carpets, refrigerators. What happens during a turn? So a turn is when one tenant moves out and another moves in. What's it cost to turn this building? We looked at parking lots. We hired a professional property inspector who told me that this partial building's got a clog and it's going to cost me $500 to jet the clog out of the drain. I've got some sloping issues. All that stuff is looked at. We go back to the owners and say, you didn't tell us about, I need 20 air conditioners. I want $1 million off the price, or I want $100,000 off the price. That's your true due diligence. And when I mean videotape, I videotaped. There were people in this apartment building that did not want to get out of bed. I videotaped them in their bed. And it's awkward, but I've got the bedroom that they were sleeping in because I want to make sure that wall's not caving in.
Okay, so then sorry to monopolize all of this, but I have questions. So,
It's great.
so you as the operator then, are you also an investor, or how are you compensated for all of this due diligence and all this? Or are you how are you compensated with all of this?
You're muted, Todd.
Sorry, everybody. I keep forgetting
That's
to do
okay.
After you agree to a price and you're happy with due diligence, they want earnest money down. And that earnest money starts the clock for me to double check everything else. For this particular deal, it's $100,000. I had to come up with $100,000 and put down. I have to do certain things until my money, what they call, goes hard or disappears. It goes in their pocket. I make money off this deal because I am a 30% of the general partnership that Cindy talked about. I make money fine, and that GP is broken down into things like due diligence, capital raising, it's acquisitions. That money comes out of the GP side. It is a profitable endeavor, or it can be on the right deal, but I only make money when you make money. It's called a preferred return. You get your 7%. If I say, hey, Cindy, I'm offering you a 7% pref, I'm offering you a 7% preferred return in your pocket, if that makes sense. So, the due diligence thing is kind of what we're in now, and it's painful. It's painful to read every contract. In theory, I should read all 43 leases and make sure the security deposit received by the previous owner was properly deposited into some type of bank account, which at closing goes into my name or my company's name. Little stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's don't trust anybody on the due diligence.
But that's the part of it on the front end that helps secure the stability and the profitability of the deal versus you're doing guesswork and just hoping it'll work and throwing your money into it. Another thing, which is a conversation that Brianna, Cindy, and I have had several times, is as far as us capital raising, it's who we will capital raise for, right? Because you have to go into it with people that you know and trust, you have experience with, and you're not getting money from investors that you have no idea what is going to happen once they invest that money. So it's kind of due diligence on all fronts from that perspective.
And so do you all have JV agreements or partnerships? What do you have that protects everyone?
We become owners just like you, a portion, and we're in the same position, and it's our reputations as well,
Sure.
I'm not going to raise for a property that I know the numbers don't look good. This particular property, and we didn't get into this, all the details on this, because we kind of just wanted to educate everybody, about what multifamily is about. But for example, this property is located in a low-income housing tax credit area. When you think of low income, what do you think? Right? You think
Section 8.
What? Yeah, but
I think Section 8 and guaranteed money.
exactly, that's the positive. And this is a B property. Sometimes when you think of low income housing, you're thinking of a D property. This is not. What is the CapEx on this, Todd? 350,000?
Yeah, since it's a 3-year hold, we've actually lowered that quite a bit because
Okay.
we've moved it. We're about 185, and $100,000 of that is roof. I mean,
Right.
we see things in the roof that roofs are expensive on these types of properties.
Yeah. So it's 185,000 of CapEx over 3 years. This property is in good condition and it's been well maintained, and so that's the positive, and that's what a lot of the properties we look at in our particular group is these, because they are not affected by the economy. There's always going to be a rent check.
I only have one single family, but I only do Section 8 because all through COVID, I was getting my check every month.
And that's what this is. So
Right.
I can even meet with you separately if you'd like, Cindy, or anybody else. Phia can, Todd can, and go over the exact numbers on this and show you the pitch deck. Part of it, when it's a 506 B, we're not allowed to advertise the property because that's for accredited investors only. But when it's a 506B, we can just give you the high level. And then once we get to know you a little bit, then we can actually present the property to you because the SEC feels like non-accredited investors unfortunately don't have as much experience. I can't get that out as accredited. So they make you form a relationship before you actually present the opportunity.
Also, to
And now I'll be quiet so other people can talk all night long.
so to answer the question, we do have operating agreements or sometimes create LLCs to, you know, cover those agreements and things like that if we're in a group together working on the projects. And like Cindy said, a lot of times the properties that we're raising capital for, we're also investing in. So we definitely trust it enough that we're putting our funds into those deals as well. And another thing that other Cindy said, we are available to set up like individual meets on this particular property or any other thing. This webinar series, we want to do have these conversations monthly. Angie, if you're still here, I believe the Clark sisters have a webinar maybe this week. I saw something coming up. If you want to throw that out there, I'll be happy to post that for you as well.
Yeah, thank you, Fire. Yes. So one of the things, like I said, we're doing tax strategies because we know as it approaches tax season, which is another reason why people do invest in real estate. We have a lot of people that come forward at the end of the year that need to get some tax credits. So yeah, so we're talking about tax strategies on tomorrow night. As a matter of fact, I was just actually posting to I was just posting to some of my friends. Yes.
Drop the link in the chat.
Yes,
and
okay, I'll drop the link in the chat.
Yeah, and we'll post
and
that.
The same thing that you said, we just want to leave a legacy with our Be Well series, same thing. Just because people need to know, and one of the things we said in our first call, and all of you guys got on, is that if we don't use our gifts, then who will use your gifts? What a disservice to the world if you don't use the gifts that you've been given. God gave all of us gifts. So all of us here, when you don't use your gifts, the world is at a disservice. So that's what we're here to do, to leave our mark on the world. So yeah, I'm gonna paste it right now. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Hold
You're
on, that was
welcome.
something different.
If you guys have topics, real estate investment that you guys want to have conversations about, let us know, because when we're planning out the webinar series, we can try to get experts and things like that in those fields to come on and help with better details than what we have for some of those topics, and make sure you're a part of the conversation. But reach out to any of us, Brianna, Cindy, myself, Todd. Let us know what you want to hear. Let us know if you have more questions. To respect everyone's time, mainly mine, since it's 4:40 a.m. for me. We're gonna wrap up in the time that we said that we would, but we definitely appreciate everybody logging on. This video has been recorded, so will be reposted if you missed any of it. And reach out to us and let us know your thoughts, what you want to hear next, and if you have any questions. Any last words, Brianna, Cindy, Todd?
I would just say, you talked about the risk and like what could potentially go wrong. Life is about taking risk. All of these investments the stock, cryptocurrency, everything's a risk. It's an investment. So usually the returns are good, and real estate's like one of the most steady returns that you could get. So it's like one of the safest ways to go. So keep that in mind. As Angela said, take a risk on yourself, use your gifts, invest in multifamily, invest in real estate. And yeah, I'm excited to keep this going.
Yeah, I would just say thank you to everyone who attended, took the time on Wednesday night.
Agreed. Thank you, guys.